Hi, everyone. This is your VP of Membership with the ATD Eastern Pennsylvania chapter. My name is Jennifer Thompson, and today I have with me Kristy Macellaro, who is a member of the Commercial Learning and Development team with AmerisourceBergen. Kristy, welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you and have you share more about what you do and things that you've done in your career. So tell us, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
I did not. I actually moved around a bit as a kid. I've grown up, I was born in Middletown, New York. I lived for a part of my life in Las Vegas, believe it or not. And then I moved to the Philadelphia area in high school.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So you started your education at Thomas Edison State College, is that correct?
I actually transferred into Thomas Edison State College. I had actually started at Drexel and realized I was probably a little too, I wasn't quite ready for college, to be honest. And I couldn't afford it. And I was working and needed to really just figure out how to finish the degree, and Thomas Edison was a much better program for me. It had a better cadence and better, a much more affordable rate for it. It was still a great program and a great school. So at that point, it was just, I wanted to get the degree over with.
And what did you study when you were there?
So I feel like I probably was, I wanted to go to college so bad at that time. I was the first one in my family to go, and I didn't know enough about it, honestly, and nobody in my family knew about it. And I loved math and loved science and kind of bounced around a little bit about between different subjects with that, but I still didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. And so, long story, by the time I I just wanted to finish the degree, and I graduated with a degree in math and still didn't know what I wanted to do with it.
Okay, so then I would think that you didn't even consider learning and performance at that point in time. Did you even know about it?
I did not. And so I think that's really interesting as I think about this in my journey here. And I talk to a lot of teammates that are coming on, and they're the next generation, right? And at the time, I don't think that instructional design or learning and development was even really a degree. That it wasn't very popular, if it was around at all. You were either in academia or something else, right? And so at the time, I felt like I could be a teacher in school, or I could do corporate or something else. But yeah, learning and development as a profession the way it is today, I don't think it was really offered in school the way it is today.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And having been part of that field myself, it's certainly not something I imagined myself doing. It just kind of appeared out of nowhere for me. So you also, I find it interesting, you pursued your MBA. Where did you do that?
Yep. So that was, again, because I felt like I didn't do so well in my undergrad, and I didn't have the best experience with that. At the time I was working at that time. I was working for a great company, and I had actually moved into I had started my path down, the path of learning and development, but I was in a group that was a combination of marketing, operations, and training. Don't ask me why they put those together, but that's what they did. And so I was on the operations side of it, but I was starting to get exposed to the training side of it. And I was starting to be interested in it, but I still didn't really know. But at that time, I was like, I really want to redeem myself from my undergrad. So, and again, because I wasn't really sure what direction, do I want to pursue marketing? Do I want to pursue more operations and, that kind of area? So I figured an MBA was a good general way to well-round myself and also redeem myself from undergrad blunders.
Oh dear, I think you were probably more critical of yourself than any of us.
Possibly.
So tell me, how did you get involved in training and development when you start out with math and science? You go for an MBA, which certainly gives you a good business mind. But how did you parlay into training and development?
I think a lot of people I know that didn't start out with instructional design or learning and development as a study in school. A lot of people I find that we kind of found our way to it, right? And we sort of find ourselves in that space all of a sudden. And I think that's my story too. So again, I was, going through my MBA, I had found myself having a really good role within operations, a team of operations. But because they were linked with operations and training, there was a need at that time. It was a large staffing company, so they had offices across the country, and they were going through a huge software and operations transformation. And they needed some trainers to help out with teaching the internal staff across the country the new software and some of the other procedures and operations and stuff. And they said, Kristy, you want to do it? And I said, absolutely, I'd love to do that. And so that was my first real exposure and experience with a training space. I was facilitating this training. I was even helping to develop and design some of it and make improvements on the job aids and the quick reference cards and things like that. And I fell in love with it. And it was sort of like, that's what I want. I was hooked. So it was in that space.
Well, that's a pretty neat story, I think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool how you stumble into some things like that. You're like, yay.
So what do you enjoy most about your job?
To be honest, I like the variety. I like that what I do right now is not what I did yesterday, and I know it won't be what I do tomorrow. And it's not that I don't get to build on my experiences or, grow, and continue to expand on them, but it's not boring. I love it. And I love working with people. I love facilitating. I love designing. I love really the coaching and the, just the helping part of it. I do love the teaching part of it. But it's so much more than that. And it's just, it's not the same every day. It's really awesome.
I have to agree with you. I have to agree. So you and I were talking about what was called the CPLP and has recently undergone some changes. I believe it is now the CPTD. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, Certified Professional in Talent Development. I still have to think about it because it's taken a while. It took me a while to remember what CPLP was, and now I got to remember what a new acronym is.
So for our membership who are maybe thinking about the CPTD, would you mind just talking about what it is, what it entails, and why you decided to pursue that and get that credential?
Yeah, of course. So again, given my, non-traditional history and exploration into training and development, when I finally realized this is what I want to do, and I had an undergrad in math and an MBA and no real, education or formal learning in this space. And again, even at that time, I think, colleges, universities were starting to offer some of this, but I really didn't want to go back to school again that way. But I really wanted to have some formal understanding and education about this space. So I did a little bit of research, came across ATD's, used to be STD, right? I think, again, there's lots of acronyms changing. Came across this program and it seemed exactly what I needed. And it offered a really, really good overview of all the different components of learning and development, from instructional design to the technology side of it, the coaching, the facilitation piece of it, whatever you wanted to understand. And it was a really good program to, I think, give me everything that I needed at that point. And, then have a really cool certification behind it that backed by, ATD. And it was and at that time I had moved to another role and I was a training manager with another company. And it seemed like a really good fit. And the other thing I really liked about the program itself too, is that, and you'll even see it now, you have to have some experience before you get into it, because they want you to, it's based on your job. It's based on what you're doing. It's not, it's not just straight, academics or anything. It's based on your real world situation, and they want you to have real world experience, and the work products that you have to submit as part of it. You obviously have to have a way to be able to do that, but it really fits nicely with your real world and whatever that is.
Would you say that it provided a good foundation for you? Anyone who's looking at this, would you say that to them?
Absolutely. Like I said, it was, I had kind of found myself in this space, and knew a little bit about it, but didn't know everything, and I wanted to know more, and I really wanted to have a good basic understanding of all the different areas. And this was a really good foundation. That's a really good way to put it. But again, while letting it match to what I was doing at that moment. And I could pick instructional design, or I could pick technology, or I could pick something. And now it's even more expanded in what you could get today. That was, gosh, I got it over 10 years ago now. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, how long did it take you from start to finish to complete the certification?
Yeah, it was about a year at the time. You have to pass the knowledge test piece of it. And so studying for all of that took gosh, ask me to go in the Wayback Machine here. Maybe 2 months to study for it. And then you need a good several months to really put together a good solid work product of, again, what you're really working on. That meets all the criteria for a good sample for them to grade and give you the certification to prove, so that you can demonstrate that you understand the different components and that you understand how what you're doing, fits into that. So.
And so I know in the past, during COVID right now, we don't travel as we used to. I used to go down to Alexandria and take courses if I was able to do that with my schedule. But do you have to go anywhere to complete the CPTD? What was that like? Were you able to do that remotely, so to speak?
You could do it remotely. You were not required to go to any classes, but at the time, and I still believe they offer this now from what I've seen, you can connect with people and connect with others that are going through it, or you can connect with those that have gone through it and have like study groups or get guidance, get some coaching. So you can get some really good, if you want, some really good real life experience and coaching, but you're not required to do any of that if you don't need to, or if you're not able to.
Well, I think, in this day and age, with the limited, or I should say maybe different resources we have available to us, I think that's something that would appeal to people. So certainly if you're looking for, this certification, it's certainly doable at this point. Even if you are primarily remote, you can still connect with people. And my goodness, look at how all of us are using Zoom.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So this might be a prime time for someone to consider getting their certification. So what suggestions do you have for those who would be seeking to do the certification? Do you have any tips that you'd give?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest tip is something that, I feel like it's a good life tip in general, but, just talk to people. Anyone who's, watching this at some point is happy to reach out. I'm happy if you want to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But, one of the things that I probably didn't do enough back then, right, even in my undergrad blunders, I didn't talk to enough people. I didn't reach out enough. And it's not even that whole networking piece from that formal perspective, but just talk to people, ask questions, figure out, there's tons of information out there, and there's tons of people, that want to talk and want to share. So, and ATD as an organization has a lot of groups to connect with. Our ATD Eastern PA group also, I know I just recently joined, and so far, it's been, there's not been anybody that I've asked a question of that hasn't been willing to talk about things. So that's probably the biggest piece of advice. Just ask, reach out.
And so let me ask you this, in closing, what is one thing that you would give to our members as advice in the training and development field? Would it be that same piece of advice? I mean, what's the most valuable thing you've learned over the span of your career so far?
Yeah, I think it is that and maybe even just, the spirit of how at least the people that I work with and everyone that I know that has kind of gravitated to this industry. We're all, I think, by nature curious individuals, and we want to help people. So yeah, I would say it's probably the same. Just reach out and talk to more people and ask questions and stay curious.
Kristy, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you. I find you energizing, and I think our membership will too.
Awesome.
So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
And perhaps we will, I've been saying this to folks, maybe we will meet in person sometime in the near or distant future.
I will keep thinking good thoughts in that area too. So yes, that is my hope and dream.
Okay, thank you, and we'll talk again.
Awesome, thank you.